Live from Hazard, Kentucky, this is Jammin John's Wrestling News. Here's your news for Tuesday, May 14th, 2019. We start off with some breaking news out of the WWE. Alfred Kawana of Forbes.com published the following email he received from WWE. The email read, WWE supports a culture of inclusion regardless of gender, race, religion, or sexual orientation, and we are committed to embracing all individuals as demonstrated by the diversity of our employees, performers, and fans worldwide. Dylan Miley, aka Lars Sullivan, will be fined $100,000 and required to complete sensitivity training for offensive commentary uncovered from his past. WWE will also facilitate meetings for Dylan with community organizations to foster further discussion around the power of social media and the impact of your words. As previously noted, Sullivan had made some controversial statements on Bodybuilding.com's message forum around 2007 to 2013. While WWE has been aware about Sullivan's post for several months, the post recently became viral again, and with sponsors such as Mars Wrigley making a public statement, WWE had to take some kind of action. So there you have it. Lars Sullivan will be fined $100,000. He will complete sensitivity training, and he will also participate in meetings with community organizations to foster further discussion around the power of social media and the impact of your words. It's obvious that WWE sees a lot of potential in him, and Lars Sullivan does have a lot of potential. However, I feel as though that the punishment should have been a lot more tougher. I feel as though that they should have done what they've done to Drew McIntyre and released him out onto the independent scene and let him work himself up on the independent scene, seeing as though that he had a bad attitude, wanting to go and cut corners to go to WWE on top of all the stuff that he said on Bodybuilding.com's forums for so many years. As a fan of pro wrestling and the WWE, I'm very displeased over the punishment of Lars Sullivan. It should be something a lot more tougher than a $100,000 fine and sensitivity training and all that. But I don't know. That's the way it is, and it's a shame. I feel as though it should have been a lot tougher punishment, but that's just my opinion. Triple H recently liked and then unliked a few tweets that were critical of the current WWE product. There appears to be some real-life frustrations from Triple H and other people within WWE. A close friend of free WWE writers recently called into PWTorch.com's Post-Raw podcast and discussed the WWE creative process. The writers had allegedly been drinking and vented to the caller about Vince McMahon. Here is what the caller said about the criticism of WWE. No one should rip on WWE creative. They have some of the most brilliant, unbelievable, cool ideas that I've ever heard. We're writing for an audience of one, and never forget that, and if not, you're out of here. The most frustrated person in the back every single night is Triple H. He'll always take, especially the NXT guys, under his wing. It looks like he's consoling them. It looks so much like he was the most frustrated person in the building every single night. Now here are some additional notes from the caller, courtesy of WrestlingNews.co. The caller noted that the wildcard rule was not in the script on the morning of the show. The Superstars shakeup changed week to week, and it didn't pan out how it was originally laid out months prior. Everything changed because Vince just decided to change it. He talked about the turnover with so many backstage people quitting or being fired. SmackDown and Raw writing teams are the same for both shows. They used to be separate, but that changed recently after the shakeup. The caller emphasized that the problems in WWE are not creative's fault, and Vince McMahon is the one person who deserves the blame. Vince wants suggestions from everyone, but it never gets on TV. 99 out of 100 times you can come up with an idea for Vince, and it won't be used. The entire creative team has pitched to have Raw and SmackDown look completely different with different production, a different way of shooting things, and etc., and McMahon shoots it down. Vince McMahon doesn't keep track of what is going on with NXT. He maybe watches takeover shows. The writers say he just watches WWE and works out and is not aware of things going on in the real world. The writers say there is no chance of Vince stepping down. Dana Brooke has been the hardest worker for the last 3 years. She goes to the Performance Center, she shows up early and helps set up the ring, and she gets in the ring so she can get better. Creative will pitch something for her and she gets nothing up until recently with Money in the Bank. The caller offered to tell Wade Keller off the air of some cool storylines that were pitched and never used. The writer he talked to said, "We're all working for Dana Warrior and it's really awkward." The WWE Fox contract prohibits Fox from moving the show to Fox Sports 1 even if the ratings drop. One writer is very close to quitting because he is so unbelievably unhappy, and many of the writers are paranoid and think they are close to being fired. It's such a toxic atmosphere, and it's all because of one person. When Neville walked out, there was a crazy shouting match and he flipped out on Vince McMahon, and that was the last time they saw him. The writers praised Neville for being so easy to work with. Ideas never pan out as originally planned because writers will come up with stuff, and then Vince loses interest after a week or two. He used Mojo Rawley as an example. The money is good and it's a dream job for many writers, but it gets frustrating. The talent is very unhappy and people are trying to get out of their contracts. The writers say Bruce Pritchard is a pleasure to work with. He's a funny guy and a pleasure to work with, but he's not getting through to Vince either. Shane McMahon, Triple H, and Stephanie McMahon have tried to talk to Vince, but it hasn't worked. The people on the writing staff listens to podcasts and they hear fans bashing them. It breaks their heart, he said. Vince is in the announcer's ear to a sentence and he gets on them for tiny mistakes. On Sami Zayn, that's not Sami Zayn's promos. That's Vince McMahon talking through Sami Zayn. There are 37 total writers and they are now working on both shows. NBC Universal and Fox both want the top stars. Andreri went into Vince's office and asked for a legit push. Vince looked at him and said, "Learn some English and get back to me." Andreri spoke some English last week and he's been taking English lessons. The Firefly Funhouse stuff is all Bray Wyatt's idea. Bray is described as an absolute genius and he helps other wrestlers with their promos. He's one of the best guys in the locker room. The writers he talked to say they loved when there was a real brand split. He mentioned the Revival and the Uso storyline being done because Vince just thought it was funny. And staying on the topic of Vince McMahon, in an interview with Variety.com, he addressed HBO host John Oliver's criticism of WWE over needing to treat in-ring performers better. Vince McMahon said, "Anybody who wants time off can get time off. That's easy. In addition to that, it's easy to weave a talent in and out of a storyline. If they get injured, you're not expecting that, or if they have a family together. Our characters are real people with real problems. It's a revolving situation where this talent will work these dates, that talent will work these dates." Jim Ross was also quoted in the article with the following remarks. Jim Ross said, "Any company that is a 52-week-a-year operation should be evaluating the number of dates that their talent works. You can give them the time off they need without closing down. One of the charms of buying that brand is that it's never a repeat. It's always first run, and it's live. If you take away those elements, it loses a little bit of its luster." In an interview with TheWrap.com, ESPN Executive Vice President of Programming and Scheduling Burt Magnus explained why Raw and SmackDown didn't end up with ESPN by saying, "We did talk to WWE during their process some months ago. Took a hard look at it. We're obviously big fans of them. We just went into business with them on the XFL indirectly, but we couldn't find the fit for it, primarily based on schedule. As you know, those properties are 52 weeks a year live, and I'm proud to say we have a pretty good problem, which is that we can't clear anything 52 weeks a year live. We have a pretty full portfolio of content as it is." Burt Magnus continued on by saying, "We parted ways and they got a good deal with their new partners continuing at NBC, Universal's USA Network, and adding Fox. So all's well that ends well for them, but we gave it a good try." And finally, here on Jammin' John's Wrestling News, Kyle A. Scarborough, who is involved in the production of Bray Wyatt's new mask that you seen last night on Raw, wrote the following on Facebook. Kyle Scarborough said, "From concept to reality, this is still surreal. I'll never forget the night Bray texted me, beyond excited with this idea that he has and needed my help. Needed my help. Still weird. He called me, and with the excitement of a child, he ran off this long list of descriptions and concepts, flooding my text messages with doodles and images. He had an idea in mind that needed help. He had the team of people to create the idea, but didn't have the vision. I've never been more scared to take 20 ideas and details and try to create a drawing that showcased his thoughts, which, putting it mildly, are about as close to insane as the character. When I was done, his response blew me away. I was told I saved his career. Now that's absurd, but he was in a rut, and the WWE weren't giving him the green light based on descriptions alone. My drawings were literally on the desk of Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon saw my renderings to help give him a visual guide for Bray's idea, and it was greenlit. Still crazy to think about. From there, I was kept updated with the sculpting work of Jason Baker, FX designer for Tom Savini, whose work includes many WWE performers and especially Corey Taylor of Slipknot. All these vignettes on WWE Raw build up to this, and we're still not done. I had no idea what was going to debut and when, mind you. So last night, I'm at a Tool concert, and almost literally in the moment, I find out the Blues are close to winning the game, and I had a text from Bray that simply read, "Congrats, brother. We changed wrestling forever." I began to see messages from friends and other fans who shared the image of the televised segment. I told him I was beaming, and that I was so happy for him to see something he loved so much come to life. He responded, "We made this happen." I'll be honest, I had tears. In the middle of a loud rock concert, Tool of all bands, thanking God for the gifts He's given me, because Lord knows I didn't deserve them, but I don't take any of it for granted. This may all be meaningless to many, perhaps cool to some, but I'll leave it with this. One of my dreams was to go to school at Tom Savini's Makeup FX studio and design movie monsters. Financially, we couldn't make it happen. Of course, I was a lifelong pro wrestling fan, and Bray Wyatt was legitimately one of the only faces in wrestling that excited me to tune in. Now, thanks to my tattoo work catching his attention, I've designed the look of the man's on-air character with the help of artists who work for Savini. I still can't process all of this fully. Anyway, I was contractually obligated to keep my trap shut till it debuted, so that's my long-winded story. Horror effects legend Tom Savini also wrote the following on Twitter saying, "Yowie wowie! New mask for WWE superstar Bray Wyatt created by my team, supervisor Jason Baker, special thanks to Sandy Mipson and Elle Farrington." And I gotta say, Bray Wyatt's mask and what happened last night on Firefly Funhouse, I loved it. I love this new look that he's got, and I feel as though if it was me, if I was in charge of WWE, and like I said, I'm just a fan, I would have Bray Wyatt go undefeated for a year, and I would make him the WWE champion. I really, really hope that this new character is a lot more successful than the backwoods cult Bray Wyatt that we all know and love. I really love this new look and just everything about this character. In the 22 years that I have watched professional wrestling, folks, I have never seen a character like this in the wrestling industry. And I'm telling you, Bray Wyatt, the sky is the limit for that man. I think big things are coming his way. So I'm proud to be a Firefly, and yes, Bray, I'll let you in. That is your news for Tuesday, May 14th, 2019. Check back here tomorrow for another Jammin' John's Wrestling News Flash Briefing on Amazon Alexa devices, Spotify, YouTube, Stitcher, and iTunes. Follow me on Twitter at John Caldwell, JONCOLWELL. Follow me on Instagram, The Jammin' John. If you'd like to sponsor Jammin' John's Wrestling News or your wrestling promotion, wanting to get your next big event out, you can email me, jzcaldwell@gmail.com. That's JZCOLWELL@gmail.com. Big shout out to Ryan Hurdle and Tony Nelson for subscribing to my Patreon. You too can subscribe to me by going to patreon.com/JamminJohn. I have free packages on there ranging from free to $7. Not a whole lot of money. I would really appreciate it if you supported me a little bit financially. Once again, that's patreon.com/JamminJohn. This is Jammin' John saying thanks, goodbye, and I'll see you tomorrow.